a very happy Diwali to you. Is it going to be a happy Diwali for Rishi Sunak and his family?
Well, it looks like it will be a very happy Diwali for him, his family, for the Indian community in Britain, for all of India to celebrate, and very likely for Britain to celebrate its institutions and its practices and democracy to make such a thing possible. Now, we are not there at the moment, but we are almost there. And as you say, it's very likely that in half an hour he will be announced as Prime Minister. Penny Mordaunt, who is behind, is now way behind, and the gap is widening almost by the minute now. Rishi Sunak has about 200 people backing him publicly, and Penny Mordaunt's public backing is about 25. There's a claim that she is now nearing 90, but that's not been verified. It's very likely that she is not going to get there, and she's being urged to, in fact, drop out and to become a part of a consensus around Rishi Sunak. But that picture will emerge very shortly, about half an hour from now.
And Sanjay, what made Boris Johnson opt out? It was being seen that perhaps he could emerge as this dark horse.
Well, there were talks between Boris Johnson and Rishi Sunak, and Boris Johnson said so himself in his little farewell note that he had reached out to Rishi Sunak and to Penny Mordaunt to try and form a unity government, but those talks didn't quite work out. A lot of MPs supporting Rishi Sunak did not want Boris Johnson back, and he could never really credibly get to that figure of 100, though he claimed he did. So, but Boris Johnson is now old hat. That's an old story now, and everybody's really waiting for Rishi Sunak to be announced as a PM. We are not there yet, but we are very, very close to that point, just inches short of it now, minutes short of it. And so that is where the future is. And of course, once he is announced, this will be history of a quite remarkable kind.
Yes,
to have someone of Indian origin as the Prime Minister of Britain is quite remarkable, yes.
Yes, absolutely. You know, Sanjay, that was my next question to you. It's going to be history that will unfold in the next half an hour, perhaps, when that announcement happens. Given the nature of the equation that India and Britain have had in the past, the colonial masters equation in the past, what does it mean for India and UK going forward?
Well, for a start, we are, I think, will be very much more happy to address that. Say half an hour from now, once these things become final and pakka, we are still a little short of that point.
Yeah,
but since we are close enough to that and we are beginning to get the feel of that, you're quite right that if we look back far enough, this is quite a reversal of the kind that colonial Britain could never have imagined. But Britain itself today has moved a long way from that colonial past. People do make that connection that, well, this is Britain, now an Indian, now becomes the Prime Minister of Britain, but this is another India, and now this is another Britain. This, the society here and the leave and the encouragement to people of all backgrounds to advance and to make a career and do for themselves, fulfill their ambitions and their talents is now quite vast. Nobody can claim that it is perfect. There's a lot of racism around, a lot of breaks around in the system, but this is a very different country from the Britain that was the colonial ruler in India.
Okay, Sanjay, stay with us, because as the race to the 10 Downing enters the final and the last lap, I would say, the public at large in United Kingdom seem exhausted by the ongoing political upheaval. Now take a look at the special report, and then I go back to Sanjay Suri.
Sorry. The later one is... what is
Truss?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't even remember her name.
Boris Johnson in the wings? No, thank you. Rishi Sunak? He knows what he's at. He's a calm character.
This is a joke. You know, it's a total joke. We're the laughingstock of Europe. And probably the rest of the world. You know, I mean...
Everyone seems to think that the obvious thing to do is to have a general election, but the politicians seem to keep faffing about and trying to keep the power in their own hands, which is understandable from their point of view, but not necessarily from the people.
We can't keep on having thousands of different prime ministers that are voted in by such a small group of people. I feel like a bigger voice is needed.
Let me go back to Sanjay Suri, who continues to join us from outside Westminster. Sanjay, so how will the announcement be made? What will be the protocol that will be followed? Who will be making the announcement?
Well, there is a 1922 committee, as it's called, and this is a committee of the Conservative Party that runs its parliamentary affairs with Sir Brady as its chair, Sir Graham Brady as its chair. So that will come into the room in Parliament and make the announcement. And that is going to not necessarily be in exactly half an hour from now. Half an hour from now is when the nominations close. And if it is the case that Penny Mordaunt has either dropped out or not made it to that 100 mark, then very soon after that we would have an announcement that there is no other candidate but Rishi Sunak who has qualified, and therefore he is leader of the Conservative Party and therefore the Prime Minister. But theoretically speaking, should Penny Mordaunt cross that figure of 100, and minutes do count these days, a minute is a long time in politics.
Yes.
in London today. If she does make it to that 100, then we will have an announcement that there will be an MP's indicative vote at 3:30 where they will vote to have their say. That will not be the final word. The final word will go to members of the Conservative Party, but that vote would indicate, and indicative vote is what it's being called, it would indicate to Conservative Party members where the majority of MPs stand, although that is quite evident already from the endorsements for Rishi Sunak.
All right. So, Sanjay, we'll have to wait for a little longer to get to know as to what really has happened and who has been chosen by the Conservative MPs. I appreciate your time. Thank you so much for joining us, Sanjay Suri there. Shifting focus.